will say that our business is stronger than it has ever been.
The success of growth and where I see companies growing consistently really is your people.
I mean, the story is not, does it make power? Because they all make power. The story is, what does it power?
This is What Solar Installers Need to Know with your hosts Hervé Billier and Joe Marhamati.
Hi there, it's Hervé and Joe with What Solar Installers Need to Know, where we interview solar CEOs and experts on how they run their business on the solar coaster. We ask their private revenue numbers, we give actionable advice, and learn about trade secrets so you can run and grow your solar business. Joe and I built a solar company from 0 to 12 million in sales and got successfully acquired. If you'd like to do the same or do better, go to sungro.com/blog to get actionable behind-the-scenes lessons on running and growing your solar business. And now, without further ado, let's jump right into the next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast of What Solar Installers Need to Know, where I welcome Ismaël Ben-Al-Lal. Hi Ismaël, how are you doing?
Hi Hervé, great to see you.
We know each other for several years, but tell me, what have you done in the solar industry over that many years, and how has it been evolving from working on a solar car project to now running Utopia, like a larger conglomerate of companies? So tell us a little bit the history and what your role is today in the solar industry.
First of all, great to see you, Hervé, and indeed, it all started a little bit with a student project, a solar car race in Australia, where we raced from Darwin to Adelaide, 2007. And at those days, we were already driving 100% on renewable energy, 3,000 kilometers, with an average speed of more than 90 kilometers an hour. So afterwards, we founded an installer company in Belgium, which is called Futech. Yeah, because we thought, if you can already race with a solar panel in normal traffic with a speed of more than 90 kilometers an hour, there's a lot more we can do with that kind of energy source. Futech is actually mainly installing solar panels. Then the market here in Belgium really changed a lot. So we had a lot of fluctuations in the market, high market demand, low market demand. And that's why we afterwards founded the technology company iLumen, which is really focusing on technology to increase yield lifetime of solar panels. And afterwards, what we saw is that solar panels is only one of the assets needed to lower your electrical consumption or your bill, because that's actually what most of the people want. They want to lower their bill. And then you need access to several assets. So today we are a group which is called an ecosystem, which is called Utopia, where we focus on solar panels, heat pumps, battery systems, and electrical vehicle charging stations. So we got slow chargers and fast chargers. And why an ecosystem? Because we noticed that the demand in the market is becoming really a lot more complex. So you really need clever energy management systems. You need more assets. And that's why we chose for building, not doing it. We strongly believe that if you go alone, you go faster. But if you want to reach as far as possible, you have to go together. And that's why we're building an ecosystem where we try to not sell products, but deliver solutions to our customers. Today, the group in total is several companies, but the main focus are the energy assets. So we have several installation companies in the group and some technology companies.
That's quite an achievement.
My role is actually the CEO of the Utopia company, where I try to let grow the ecosystem, work together with several companies. Today, our main market is the Belgian market, but we are also looking into the Netherlands. And with iLumen, we are active in 42 countries, but there we only deliver some specific products that we make here in Belgium.
Okay, I have a lot of questions about all those different companies. Why don't we start with maybe the one of them, your initial Futech company, and then we will speak about a technology company later on. But as like a installer, mainly in Belgium, how were you able to grow it from, and I remember being in the office where you ordered containers full of solar panels, and I remember you guys were laughing at the time, like, we forgot how much we ordered. Did we order? I forgot how much the number was. And you kind of were like joking, like, we ordered so much, we forgot how many we ordered. That's a good position to be in once you order that much and you forget. So how were you able to grow? Any lessons learned? And then you mentioned the market changed. Was it like all policy driven? Like what changed in the market to where you had to pivot, and how did you do that?
So I think we really focused on a product based on a good combination of economics and ecological. So it's a product with a payback time with a lower levelized cost of energy as the standard in the market. So if you look at it 20-year base, yeah, it's really a no-brainer to have it. And we quickly realized that there are two types of customers. There are customers that really want to invest and say, okay, I want to buy this product because I'm sure that then every year my electricity bill will drop and I will have a payback time of 8 years or 10 years. And it's better to give that money to a loan to the bank, for example, than to give it to a supplier of electricity because then it's gone. So really people that want to invest, I compare it with buying a house. But there are also people that say, yeah, but actually I just want cheap electricity. And I look at the cheapest electricity supplier on the market and I choose that one. So maybe if Futech can supply me with cheap electricity, I'm interested, but I don't want a capex. I don't want to do an investment. And that's why we had actually the EcoFix solution, which we now already do like 16 years, where we actually put for free solar. We invest in the solar installation and we rent them to the owner. And I think the combination of the two products gives a lot of trust to the customers. And we were enabled to people that, for example, didn't believe that the technology will be alive for 20 years and it will not work. And I have trees or a windmill giving shadow. There we really choose for the service model. So we install it for free. And afterwards, people can still buy it. So we really made product propositions that, yeah, everyone who actually could calculate, could make the bill a little bit. It was a no-brainer to do. And I think that was a quite good market approach to go with. And I think that's the reason why it really had a lot of success, the combination of the two.
That way people had the choice. It's either A or B, but that's the option. The other option is stick with your utility bill and pay rent forever. Is that something that you fund yourself, or is that a partnership with a financier, a bank, or is that self-funded?
Yeah, so in the back end, of course, there are some financial partners, only banks that refinance the products. But we first build them. And then once we build enough, because we do it on two scales. So we do it on industrial scales. There it's typically on a project level, it's financed because the projects are large enough or used to be large enough. Remember, a panel used to cost around 1,000 euros 15, 16 years ago only for the solar panel. So if you installed a rooftop with 1,000 panels, it already had a huge cost. Today, it's a totally different market. But there it's more like project financing. But we also do it on a residential scale. So a lot of small, and there we try to combine all the small projects. And once we have like 100 projects, then we refinance them to be able to get some scale and not too much administration for each project, because also administration has a cost.
So you self-fund about 100 projects, both hardware and the labor to go deliver and the sales commissions, and you self-fund 100 projects and then you package them and resell to somebody that wants to own them long term.
Yeah, refinance them actually. We refinance them because we have the capex, but we also have yearly income, and with the income we can refinance the project. But it's because projects are becoming quite cheap, so it's actually the administration cost to make a structure to finance it also has a cost. So it doesn't make sense to do that on a project level. It makes much more sense to build vehicles that are large enough and then refinance it to keep it cost efficient.
Let's briefly speak about prices, because most people cannot wrap their mind around the price difference. Euros compared to dollars, for several years I thought was like, hey, it's about the same. That now is not valid anymore. Let's assume roughly, to make the calculation simple, is the same. So in the US, a residential solar system, you're on like $2.70, sometimes up to $3 these days, especially with batteries, you even higher. And then commercial, need to be closer to $2 for like large projects. Solar panel itself, you can go like non-American, you're like around 20 cents, 23 cents. And then otherwise, the premium panels and American panels, like you're like 50, 60 cents. So where are you at on the European market?
Yeah, I think the prices you mentioned, turnkey installations, we are really at half of the price. So if I look at the residential prices here, that we use for solar system, I think it's 1.3 euros kilowatt peak. The difference is, hey, you remember we always used to calculate in euros a kilowatt peak. That made a lot of sense because 80% of the cost was the solar panels itself, and the balance of system was like 20%. So of course that's the main driver. But today we don't calculate anymore actually in euros a kilowatt peak because if you look at the real cost of a project, only 20% is the solar panel, and the labor and the inverter is all the rest. So it's not really the driver. But if we look at the Belgian market, I think the average solar installation is around 6 kilowatt peak, which is around 14 panels, 12 till 14 panels, depends on the modules you use. And you will be at around 1.3 euros kilowatt peak. And if you go to utility scale, it will be around 1 euro. Those are the prices we have for rooftop installations turnkey. But we see competitors here because the market is really under pressure. We see even lower prices also in the market. One thing I learned from the solar car race is you have to race your own pace, make your own choices and stick to your strategy, because elsewise you will not make it to the finish. So we don't try to focus too much on competitors doing sometimes strange things. But we're at around 50% of the prices you mentioned.
We try to do the same, don't look too much at competitors, but you still need to know what's going on in the market. So in the US, you have like local solar installers, some do resi or the commercial, but then you have some larger developers. They just find projects with larger brands usually, and then they ask people to install it. But then you also like the really, what we call like the big box solar, like the really big, that the Sunruns, the Teslas and so on. Those are very large corporations that do usually all over the US. So you compete with them. I would say a lot of times in a different class. But so what is the market then in that you see, since you mainly work in Belgium? What do you see as competitors? Do you have like people from Germany and the Netherlands coming on the Belgian market? Do you have just Belgium competitors, local ones?
Yeah, so we analyzed the market, I think 5 years ago, and we noticed that everything so Belgium is really not a do-it-yourself market. So everyone looks at technical installations for heat pump, solar system, battery. Everyone searches an installer which is around 20 kilometers from his house, because they think it's very important that when there is a technical issue in the winter, you have to call someone local. So people really buy local. And that means that it's really, the market is really spread. It's really, you don't have a lot of big players, but that's actually, I think, what's happening the last 3-4 years. The market is starting to get consolidated.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that there are now some companies, but still not that much, that are really starting to have national coverage, to buy other companies and to consolidate. That's also our strategy, because we notice if we look at a market, we always say get big, get niche, or get out. You really like the niche market, do something what maybe it's also what Illumin does. Illumin is, for example, market leader in a niche market, very small market, but with a market leader in that. And that's very nice because, there you can really make a technical difference. And that's always when we start a new business, it's always niche. But after 15 years, we noticed that sometimes niche markets don't stay niche markets, but become commodity markets, mainstream markets. So that's what we see happening, for example, with solar. And that means that we need to grow, actually. We don't have a choice. We need to grow. And then we analyzed 3-4 years ago, what are we going to do? We also had some private equity companies contacting us. They wanted to build a group. We also considered that at that stage. But then we said, no, we really want to stay a family-owned business because it's in our DNA today. But then if we want to stay alive, we have to get big. And that's the reason we started the buy a build. So actually what we see happening in the market is that's also what we do. So we include in our ecosystem, we buy local companies, and you see that the local companies really have big difficulties from moving from a solar company to a solar, battery, heat pump, charge solution company, because they're really used to have a product approach. They go to their suppliers. Everyone has an EMS system, but it's an EMS system for your solar system. It's an EMS system for your battery system, a different one for your charging solution, different one for your heat pump. It doesn't communicate with each other. It's very complex. You need other skills. It's very difficult for your blue collars also to keep them up to level with the communications. It's really difficult to make the transition from solar installer to the total solution, asset solution. And that's where we have iLumen, which is our own technology company, which has that. So it's one user interface. So we really try to make a difference with the user interface. That's what the customer sees. And we don't want the user interface to change the next 10 years. All the customers buying products from us have to be able to look on the same user interface. And in the back end, even if we change products or add complexity, it cannot change on the user interface. And that's actually a totally different way of selling solutions, because you start from one application, which is connected directly with the electricity cost on the market. And we try to charge your car, charge your heat pump, your electrical boiler, sometimes also curtail your solar panels, charge your batteries when it's very cheap. And when the price is very high, we try to reduce the power of all these assets. And for us, it's quite easy when we include all those companies in the ecosystem to make from a solar installer a total solution, because we add the technology layer on it. So that's what we call think global, act local. We really strongly believe that with one technology, you can really reach beyond several markets, one technology, but to translate commercially to each market, you need a local partner. And that's how we try to consolidate. So same products, same approach, but the commercial approach we have to be local with. So that's what we see happening. It's still a market with a lot of small players, but there is some consolidation going on for sure.
Yeah, no, I see several groups buying local installers. I don't know if they all have the same nice strategy as you presented. Maybe what I didn't know, like Sunvo, we do the same principle, that stay in contact with your homeowner for 20 years, use one brand, a solar installer brand or something, and own that relationship. And then all the products that come afterwards, obviously PV first, but then batteries and like EV, like everything else comes afterwards. That is the same front for homeowners. So you build that trust.
I really strongly believe in that. And what we see here, I totally agree what you say. Actually, yesterday I had to give a presentation somewhere, and because of the presentation I had to give, before the presentation, I was reflecting a little bit for, why do people work together with a group like us? Because there are a lot of private equity players. And I think that if you look at our DNA, we are technical boys. Our background, we are still techies. We are non-financial guys. Financial, of course, is very important, but in the DNA, we have an engineering background, and we really have an engineering DNA, and that's what we see that as when we have competitors in a buy and build process. People that really want as much as possible money for their company, they probably will go with private equity owners. They don't have, but I really still want to be on board for the next 5 till 10 years. So it's not really sell, and I really want to be part of the 2.0 version of the company and the new version of the company. And I believe in it. And I want to have fun in that project. They really come to us because the technology we provide them is really state of the art and is really 100% developed in-house. So, and we can really choose who our suppliers. So we are really supplier independent. And we also choose our suppliers not from the sales guy who can pitch it as good as possible, but really from a technical point of view, testing and integrating the products into our system. And I think that's something that's really appreciated by the companies and gives also our salespeople the opportunity to tell the same story for years and years and years without always changing the product and the story. And we choose for a customer-centric model. But that means that also if you make a customer-centric model over 20 years, And the difference between a normal customer-centric model and a customer-centric over 20 years is that you keep in mind that if the customer calls you in 7 years and has a problem with your batteries, that you're sure that you can still provide him a solution. And you cannot do that if you change every 6 months your products or your EMS system. You can only choose do that if you choose what we call Pareto, but 20% of the products for 80% of the customer. We know that 20% of the customers, will not choose us because we will not do what they ask. That's a choice. But that's why we can, with a very simple product range, really cover quite broad market and be sure that in 7, 8, 11 years, we can still supply service and solutions to. And that's very difficult. That's much more difficult with battery solutions because today, actually, we are a battery company. If you look at our turnover, I think 60% of the turnover is batteries now, where it used to be, batteries used to be 10% 3 years ago.
Let's speak about like M&A. We briefly start speaking about it, but so you have UDP with different companies and a technology company, Illumin. So when you look at acquiring companies, what are you looking for? And I'll put a little bit of context. So see, like we've grown solar companies together at somewhat the same time. And then I decide to exit my business, completely sell to private equity. And to me, the fun was also like doing the next piece, just purely software. You keep it all together. Good luck. And then when you see another solar company, and there are a lot of different options out there, what are some important pieces to partner with them and come to an agreement?
Yeah, so we have a strategy plan which includes two very important things, is geographical expansion. So we look at places where we don't have yet enough market share. There we search for partners that have the type of customers, the relationship. And we really look, if we do M&A, we look at who are the customers and does the company have the relation with their customer the same DNA as us, customer-centric companies. But typically, they because you want to add value. If you acquire companies, and the way we add value is by adding technology, cross-selling. So typically companies that used to sell only solar panels and want to make the shift to batteries, chargers, and are in a location where we don't have yet enough market share, that's very important for us because we can help them for the cross-selling. We can add technology and we can help them to contact their existing customers and new customers to sell new products. So that's one thing we look at. So geographical expansion. And the second we look at, but at this moment it's a little bit less, but it used to be more important in the past, is technology. Increase of technology, added technology in the group. So I want to give an example. For example, so 2 years ago, we already used to do heat pump, but only air and air to water. But we were very interested in geothermal heat. And we learned in the past that, if you want to do everything by yourself, it takes a lot of time and you make a lot of errors, which also cost a lot of money. Then at that moment, we choose to add, we believe in, for some cases, we strongly believe in geothermal. That used to be a competence we didn't have in the group. So then we search for companies. Also, we hope that it's a geographical expansion, but that's not a must. But then if it's a geographical expansion and a technology expansion, so company that is really a strong leader in geothermal installations, then we can add the technology to the group and also scale the competence over the group. And that's also the reason why we shifted. Futech in 2020 only did solar panels. That's it. And today we do solar panel, batteries, heat pumps, electrical solution. And all the competence are actually by companies that we inquired. And that's why we got the competences in the group, but without making the beginner's error. And so we really got people in the group that have experience in that. So we don't want our customers to be our experimental environment. It has to be mature technology. And so those are actually the two main criteria. So for example, we bought then Ecosol Plus, which is really a leader in Belgium in geothermal energy. And we also integrated that into the group. those are actually the two main domains we look at.
Yep, this is also happening now in the US, maybe a few years later, where solar companies diversify. Most do PV and most already do batteries. I know a few that still stay away of it, but people are looking into roofing, HVAC, and so on. Now, a question is about how you sell it. Is one person that does sale for you sell the batteries, the PV, the heat pumps, everything, and needs to be knowledgeable? It's technical sale, right? Needs to be knowledgeable about all those different products, and then the installation happens by very different crews, or is like, well, I sell battery and PV, you need to talk to another guy for the heat pump, and who goes install it? I suppose it's very different crews. So how do you operate?
Yeah,
Providing an entire package, and yet how you do that?
that's actually quite a simple question, but I noticed with the buy and builds we did and with the companies we acquired that the model we actually had already like now 16 years or 18 years we are using that model is not that all the other companies I know are doing it different. So our model is based on actual facts, and the actual facts are that we are in a roller coaster. So our market is solar is really, sometimes you have a lot of demand, sometimes you have low demand. So it means that if you have salespeople only selling solar, that sometimes they will have no work, and sometimes you will not have enough people to be able to go to the customer. So not sustainable. So the only way to build a sustainable sales team is to be able to have, and also from a customer centric point of view, I want, so your time is precious. You call Futech or Verisol or one of our companies, you schedule in an appointment of 1 hour. Yeah, your time is also quite precious. So we don't want our sales guy to come to you and say, Hervé, I'm the solar guy. And you say, yeah, but I'm also interested in a heat pump and battery. Okay, then we have to reschedule. That's not efficient. And that's actually our model. That's what we call fast moving sales. So our model is really very easy, very straightforward. We only sell products that we can sell by asking you and giving you a quotation by asking you 5 questions. 5 questions and you have your price. That's what we call fast moving sales. And so it means that a sales guy from us can come to your place. He will look at some things. He will ask you 5 questions. You have your price for your solar system. If you want a battery, 5 questions max. Heat pump, 5 questions. So we choose for the model because, if you do 10 visits, it's not that you sell 10 systems. So it doesn't work like that. You have a conversion rate. And we choose for the model. No, you have the sales where we tell you exactly what your price will be. And we guarantee you that's the price. So we'll not add. And once you choose to work with us, then we have someone from the back office coming by to do all the technical requirements and the measurements. So we don't let sales do that because, let's say that you sell 1 on 4, then you're doing 3 measurements for nothing. And so, no, we say sales is a discipline separate, and the prices, we know the prices, and 5 questions, we can give you a correct price. And sometimes maybe it's 100 euros too low, and sometimes it's 100 euros if you want to do it exactly, but it doesn't matter. The efficiency we're gaining with that is much more important. And when it's sold, then we have our operational team that looks into how are you going to install it and the technical things. But sales from us is one guy gives you a quotation for solar, heat pump, battery, and charging solution within 1 hour.
And no change orders afterwards. Like, well, we didn't know that actually you're apparently somewhere else. You eat the cost if there's a change.
Yeah, and so for new products, we sometimes see after 1 month in the after calculations that we're too cheap or we made an error, failing forward, we call that. And then we adjust in the system the prices. So that's learning money. But if you calculate it by launching and working this way, we have much lower sales cost because we have, and our time to market is much faster time to market. And the time we win with launching a product, even if you have some errors in the beginning or some projects with loss, as long as you know it, you can still. So so in an innovation culture, we always say you have to measure and then analyze. But as long as the decisions you're making are reversible, you have 2 types of decisions in a company. You have reversible decisions. Those you must take very fast because even if they're wrong, you just turn it back and okay, it's maybe you learned something and it's failing forward. And then you have some decisions that you cannot just turn back. Those you need a different kind of governance to take those decisions, of course. But if you're an innovative, also to launch something to get the feeling, does it work with the customer or not? What's the conversion ratio? What does it matter if a heat pump? If you're discussing, is it now 20,000 euros or 20,600 euros? Efficiency is that the customer only needs to take 1 hour to get immediately when we leave at your place, you have your quotation. That's very important for us.
You spoke about the solar coaster. We use the same term in the US. The solar coaster ups and downs. Do you see the same with heat pumps? And what are the causes of the solar coaster? Is it all policy related or is it something else?
Yeah, I think it's policy. Yeah. So we are if I look in the Belgium and also the Netherlands, if you look at solar panels, for example, it used to be subsidized. I don't think it's good to be in a subsidized business because it's not that sustainable. And because it's subsidized, sometimes you have very high demand, and then when the subsidies stop, the demand also stops. So I think that causes, and that makes it also not a real it's quite an emotional product if you look at it, because of the policies and the discussions there were in the past. But we see that much less now with batteries, because for batteries, for example, there are no subsidies, but people want to be more independent. That's the reason they choose the battery. And heat pump, now you see the tech shift. So gas used to be in the transport of gas used to be very cheap in the past, and the transport of electricity in Belgium used to be quite high if you compare it. And now you have a part of the distribution cost of electricity that shift to gas. And that's the reason why heat pumps now become actually much more interesting for customers. And that has a big impact. What we see is that if you combine the four products, the roller coaster becomes much more narrow and it's growing. But if you only do one of the four products, I think you really have a problem. You really have a problem as a company, I think.
I have a question about management. You have grown, you're starting business, food tech, you added Illumin, now you're doing Utopia. So you have some advice for other solar CEOs and managers, how to deal with different teams, how to rise above and make time to look for other opportunities out there. How do you do that?
I think the first lesson I learned is maybe buy a mirror and learn about yourself. So I think if you know what you're strong at and your weaknesses, then you know what kind of people you need around you. Be able to really, if you're really an entrepreneur, don't try to be a manager. I think that's one of the main difficulties I see at some companies, that you really have entrepreneurs, and because the company grows 20, 30 people, they put themselves in a manager role. But I think that's a totally different competence, I think. So an entrepreneur wants to do new things, new businesses, and a manager wants to manage people, which is so I think it's very important that you have 2-3 people around you that you can trust and really deliver the things you can deliver, your negative sides, to know that. That's what I learned. I think the second thing that I learned, be yourself. I think at a company, we sometimes try to be someone because we read it in books, but I think in these times, being a natural leader, being yourself, being authentic is really very important. Only say things you really believe and that match with your personal life, but also in your work life. So don't try to be someone else there. I don't think it works. And sometimes you lose people also. What I also learned is, so in the beginning, I always thought that, when people used to work with you for a very long time, that's a good thing, retention. But I don't think that's always a good thing. Because you have two types of people. You have people with a fixed mindset and you have people with a growth mindset, and you can make people with a fixed mindset sometimes that go to the growth mindset. So you can try to change people. Sometimes it works, but if it doesn't work, you also have to give up, because we are in a market that's continuously changing. The ability to change is one of the main competences. If you don't change in our market, you will go bankrupt. And we saw it in the past. So you also need people in your company that are comfortable with change. Because if they're not comfortable with change and you try to keep them with you, you're really making them very unhappy. You're not happy and they're not happy. And I think it's important to also have a very good offboarding process to detect when you start doing change management, how to really try to keep people on board if possible, but if not, how can I offboard them but still keep them an ambassador? Because that's very important. That's very important. That's something I really learned. So open communication. If you don't have a double schedule, actually you can be very transparent, I think, about everything within your company. Open culture, searching with people. So we have 4 values in our company, and people is one of them. Planet is the second. Only products, and we only sell products with the knowledge we have today. We think we will be glad to tell our grandchildren that we worked on them. That's the definition of planet for us. Profit, to see if we're innovative, because if people don't want to buy for pay for our added value, what's the innovation then? Then we don't have any added value. But the fourth one is persist. We are in a market where we always try to change what is the normal. So we, a heat pump, solar panels, and change is always resistance. So you also need people in your organization that really persist and that don't give up when it's getting tough. So those are a couple of things I really learned during the journey. And actually within our group, it was a no-brainer because the companies we founded has that kind of DNA. But I really notice it now more and more after I became CEO of Utopie. When we acquire companies, there we now really see that some companies have been doing 20 years the same thing. And then you say, okay, now we will do this. And then they ask the question, why? We have always been doing it the other ways. And if you try to change people with really a fixed mindset, it takes a lot of energy and it will not work. And you're also making those people not happy.
So part in the M&A strategy that we spoke about before, we spoke about geographic, I guess culture is also an important piece.
Yeah, I think sometimes culture is overrated. I strongly believe in structure beats culture. So I really strongly believe that. We talked, for example, about the sales process. A strong structure builds a very good culture. But if you don't have a good structure, and we used to measure everything on output, but sometimes it's actually, if you have a good process, sometimes it's better to measure on input because it's much more clear for people what they have to do to get the results. And so I think culture, I don't know if that's a goal, but automatically if you have clear KPIs and a quite good ambition, good clear milestones, KPIs, you get a strong culture because we call it playing in the Champions League. You automatically get that kind of culture of people that are willing to go for it. But it's not that culture is a goal on itself for our type of company. It's because we strongly believe that structure beats culture.
About people, and since we are working dynamic companies and change happens, sometimes we need to let go of people. In the US, if you're polite, you give them a 2 weeks notice. I had some cases like extreme situations where you let go of a person at the same day for something like that was really outrageous. What is the situation in Europe, or more specifically in Belgium? Do you have to give reasons? Because I don't always have to give reasons too. So can you let a person go easily? Like I give them a 2 weeks notice. That also has a flip side that people, if they don't like you or your management style, then they can find a job somewhere else. They can give you a notice like, sorry boss, I don't like your face. And the same day, the next hour, they're off if they choose. Most people give notices. I have some people who give me like 6 months notice, 4 months notice, which is a bit extreme in the US, like kind of nobody does that. But what's the situation? Because you still have to run a company and adapt to change. How flexible is the Belgium market?
It's not at all flexible. Typically, you have like 5-6 months that you have to continue paying if you stop the collaboration. So typically, one of the rules is for every year that someone has been working for you, you add 1 month when you stop the collaboration. As someone who's been working 5 years, 5 months. It's a rule of thumb. Yeah, and then the question is also, if you let go of someone, yeah, typically it has a reason. It doesn't work anymore. So yeah, you don't always let them come to work anymore for those kind of 5 months because yeah, like a commercial person. So it means that you really have to pay them 5 months.
That's a major difference in situation. On the flip side, like I had some people that, they felt like a much better opportunity. They give me a call, like, Hervé, was really nice working with you for all those years, but this is an opportunity that's too good to pass, so I'll move on. But don't worry, you can still ask me any questions and so on. So even people that mean well, after a few days, once, the company needs to move on, we need to find a replacement, who's going to take over those tasks. After a few days, the people need to take over the roles. They're like, I'm definitely going to call you. And then after a few days and weeks, people move on and people adapt. So even there, like the 5 months sounds like an extraordinarily long time to having to deal with it.
Just translating it because I didn't know how to say it in English, but we say accelerate the how do you say it? Inevitable.
Inevitable.
Accelerate the inevitable. Sometimes you just know some things will come to an end. Accelerate those because typically, from a human point of view, we always tend to push things a little bit forward, mainly the bad news. And we always say accelerate the inevitable. So in collaborations, but for us, human capital is really important. So we build companies around humans. People. We also have patents, buildings, but the most important are the people. They make the difference day by day. But in change management, you automatically get people that don't fit anymore in the new story. That's also logic. So the company changes, and sometimes the people cannot adjust to those changes. And then you have to react, and sometimes it has a big financial price. But still, if you wait 5 months, then also you have been paying also 5 months, and it's not good for So
tell us more about what Pitbox is. What is that thing? Maybe iLumen in general, and do you do it out of like pure business, like this or something, an investment, a business mistake, or is there a part of you that just interested in cool and you want to do it?
Illumin actually was founded because in 2012 the market in Belgium really dropped, and we had installed a lot of solar installations. Some of them we owned, some of our customers, and I don't know another product as a solar system which has 25 years of warranty. At that time, no one was really sure will it be able to perform. And then we started looking into something which is called potential induced degradation. It means that as solar panels, they decrease power during years. And one of the reasons they decrease power is potential induced degradation. That's leakage to the ground. But there were some companies, big manufacturers, Chinese manufacturers contacted us because they had some solar parks, big parks, where they had to replace the modules because they were out of warranty and it was big costs, megawatt projects. But after 6 months, the new panels started giving the same problems. So they replaced them. And we looked into that, and then we found actually a solution which is patented. And it's a box you put between the inverter and the solar system. And by night, it increases the solar output it increases the yield of your system. We have been selling that since 2012. We also won the Innovation Award at the Intersolar in 2016 with the device. And we sell that to 42 countries. And for example, the US, we also sell it a lot. SunPower is an N-type module. And people that used to work with SunPower know that in the beginning, 2008 till 2012, the old modules of SunPower, you had to ground them with the positive side. And today, if you replace the inverter with a new type of inverter because it breaks, you have to decouple the grounding. Otherwise, the inverter doesn't work. And if you do that, you will see that your power will drop 30-40% after 3-4 months. And that's what they call it polarization, but actually it's also potential induced degradation. And we sell our product. If you buy a new inverter and you add an iLumen PID box in between, then it will work. It will go back to 100% yield. So, and that's a niche market for us because all the installations with SunPowers 2008, 2012, where you now install an inverter without a transformer and you have to disconnect the grounding, you need a solution for us, or you need to replace all the modules. That's one of the products we have, for example. Yeah.
Ismaël, I want to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, seeing everything you've built over the years. Thank you for sharing your knowledge.
You're welcome. Great to see you again, and good luck. Bye.
Thank you. If you'd like to do the same or do better, go to sunvoy.com/blog and get actionable behind-the-scenes lessons on running and growing your solar business.